For TraderInsight.com, I'm Adrian Manns, and this is a Realtick 101 session. This is our very first session. I want to show you how to set up the platform so that it works for you the way that it works for me, and then you can tweak it whatever way you think will make it more suitable for your situation. First off, this is covering Realtick up through and including 11.7.5.1. This is the most recent release as of 10/29 of 2017. The first thing I do when I set up a Realtick workspace on a new computer is I go up to the top of the screen here. You see this little ES software icon. Click on that. Click on the Realtick configurator. Then I go to colors and fonts and I make sure that no theme is on. I change the uptick color to this dark green, and I change the downtick color to sort of a dark red. That makes it easier to see these on white backgrounds, which is what I tend to use. Go to toolbars, make sure that your toolbars and your status bar are on. Then I go to window captions, and I say only on mouse hover do I want to see a window caption. So I don't want my screen space getting eaten up by a little bar on top of every single window telling me what I already know, what the symbol is, and then showing me account information and all that other stuff in here. So only on mouse hover. That gives us a thin border and actually frees up quite a bit of screen real estate by the time all is said and done. Then click OK, and we are ready to go. So the first thing we'll do is design a chart. Let's do all of this from menus. Click on Design, Chart, and let's set our interval to 5 minutes. And in this window, you can see that you can set up as a bar chart, which is what I do. And I'm also going to tell it to show me volume and volume by price. I'm going to exclude bars with no volume. And that should be enough then to get me exactly the data that I want to look at. And I've got a symbol, in this case Apple. I'm just going to tell it to add that symbol, and I click OK. Now I've got a chart with white bars, black data, and all green volume bars. So the next thing I'm going to do is configure this window. Right-click inside the chart window, and then go down to Display Attributes, and we're going to do a couple things here. We're going to say Show Pivot Lines. Those are the floor trader pivots. And then it's up to you whether or not you want to show your orders or your executions. I definitely like to show my orders right on the chart so that I can drag them around and move them as I see fit. Right-click the chart again, click on Display and Analysis, and now we can set the colors for our charts. I like a white background, so just select that from the background there. I use black text and axis labels. I tell it to color code my volume bars, and I usually set the pen width at 2. Here under Select Font, if you're getting older like I am, you want to set that up to 10 or 11. Click OK. Click OK again. Now your chart is formatted. Now you can see it's all compressed and weird looking, right? Hit F6. And you see the chart that we're much more familiar with. Much easier to identify support and resistance with the chart formatted like this. Once my chart's open, if I want to add studies, I click on this trend tool. That tool will automatically be available when the chart is selected. It's not available when that chart window is not the active chart. So if you're clicking on something else, if you're clicking on a market maker or something, then you won't get the trend tool. You only get the tools that are relevant to the thing that you are currently working on. But in this case, we use our trend tools, and let's say I'm going to use a dashed line, and I want to change that to, let's use a dashed orange line on the chart. And now I draw some support and resistance studies. And I decide I'd like to move one of these around. The way to do that is go and click on the line grabber tool, which is just a little hand. Then come and grab the line, and you can move it wherever you'd like on the chart. I can resize the chart by just grabbing the corner and moving the chart around, or I can maximize the chart, of course, by clicking on the mouse hover and expanding the chart to full screen. If I want to get rid of all the studies on the chart, I go back to my trend line tool, click clear all, And this is also where I'm going to find things like Fibonacci studies, volume weighted average price studies, and I can do things like format the defaults for all of these by selecting the particular study that I'm interested in this case Fibonacci, clicking on configure, and then you see here that I have the 1.382, the 1, the 0.618, 0.5, 3820, minus 382. If I want to add something here, I say new, and then once the new value is in there, I'm going to change that to a minus 0.5. I'll click new again and change this one to minus 0.618. And now I've got a Fibonacci study set up. It's going to draw all these lines in blue, and it's going to include all the values that I asked it to include. Now notice that we don't have the dollar amounts on each one of these lines. If we want to do that, go back into configuration of your study and click on show labels. So if you want to know exactly what each one of those lines represents, if you're not just watching it to see where the inflection is, if you're going to be very precise about where you want to place your order or something, you can put those values on those lines. That holds true for the horizontal tool as well. So if you change your trend line to horizontal, you can see I've got show label for the horizontal tool. Now let's add a market maker window to this. Once again, click on design, market maker, and let's put our symbol Apple in here. And now we see that on this particular computer, I've got sort of a weird display up here. Numbers are bunched together. This is something that we can change by clicking on layout choices, open new layout, and let's say I select market maker 5 from the layouts. That gives me a different layout up here. You'll see that it also changed the symbol to whatever the symbol was when this market maker was saved. But this one in particular gives me a lot of details about a current order, and then I can change the size of these fonts. And if they run into each other again, I can also change the layout by right-clicking and putting it into edit mode. Once it's in edit mode, I've got the ability to grab anything here and just move it around to make more room for a larger font or whatever it is that I want to do, right? So all of this is customizable. You can add fields, you can take fields away, but that is how we can move the information in the market maker window, and we can also modify the way the market maker window looks. Now, once the market maker window is set up, you have a couple things that you can modify in the order entry portion. First off, whatever broker you're using is going to have different routes available. So when you look at the order route down here, you're going to see that in this case, I've only got market and limit orders available. If I change this, I'm going to see different routes have different order types. So by switching in this case to EQLS, it's going to be different depending on which broker you're with. We're going to have limit orders, market, stop, limit, trailing stop, limit, discretionary, bid, offer, peg offer, hidden, best bidder offer, mid, and top. So those are all order types that are available. So remember all these orders down here. And let me show you something. When I switch back to Apple, all those order types went away because the default route was set to this. And the route that we want is this other EQLS in this case. Again, that's going to be different depending on the broker that you're using. So what I need to do is set some defaults. The way to set defaults is to right-click down here in your order form and then go down to Order Entry Properties. When this opens up, what you're going to want to do is select US stocks, and you can change your route to the one that worked best for you. You can also do things like change your show size. Let's say I only want to show 100 shares on my typical trade. And let's say I want to do mostly stop limit orders. Expiration, I want to default today. And then the primary account we don't have to do anything with unless you've got multiple accounts. And if you click OK now, and then you come back in here and you change symbols, you'll see that your stop limit is your default order and your route is the route that had all of the order types that you were interested in. So now you've got your montage. This is called a market maker montage, set up exactly the way that you want it for your intraday trading. The next thing you want to look at is this screen down here and figure out if this is the layout that you like for this. I do a lot of short selling, so I don't like to have to tick the short sale box and then hit sell. What I prefer is to have a button down there that allows me to do that order. Now the order form that I like to use for this is the one called bracket. So if you look through this list towards the bottom here, system order forms, you'll see an order form called bracket. What this does for me is gives me buy, cover, cancel, sell, and short. And it also gives me the option to do a bracket order and a conditional order. Now let's say that we're interested in trading this stock in the left window from this montage in the right window. First thing you can notice is whatever we do with this symbol is not doing anything in our chart window. The way to remedy that is to right-click up here in the top of the window, right up above the actual montage, and click on the word links. Under links, you're going to select whichever chart you want to link to. If there's multiple charts you'd like to link to, just hold down the control button, click on each chart to which you'd like to link the montage, and then click OK. Now when we go in and type a symbol in here, we see that the chart window has changed, as has the order entry screen. Once this is laid out the way that I have it here, what we can see is that if we would like to place an order for Agilent, we have a stop price and a limit price, and we can place an order. We could say that if the last price rises to 68.15, then we're going to go ahead and buy Agilent, and the worst price we'll take is 68.20. Then we click on buy, and the order will go live as a stop limit order. You can do the same thing with a straight up limit order or a stop market order, or if you have clicking enabled on your order entry, right click in the bottom of the screen, go to market maker, setup, or you can just hit F4, and under user interface settings, you can configure this so that when you double click, you can get a pop-up order entry or send a new order. When you click live orders, you can modify them, and you can tell it whether you want to join or take the clicked price or the inside market. So in this case, if I have this set at take and I click OK, and I come in here and I double click on 67.98, what will happen is Realtick will buy Agilent at 67.98, 1,000 shares, as soon as I double click on the 67.98 price line. If you'd like to set up a bracket order, what you can do is click on the word bracket, then click on a price, and we see here that we have a stop limit order now, and we can make the stop lower. Let's say it's a 67.88 stop and a 67.98 limit, and then click on the word buy, and now our bracket order pops up. And the first thing to do here is make sure that the expirations match, because in this case, in my defaults, I set the expiration for new orders today, and we see here that the bracket order is defaulted to good till cancel. So you can go back and change all that in your default settings, just the way we did a moment ago. But for now, what we can do is enter all of our values based on prices. We see that we're going to get into the trade when a 67.88 print takes place. The worst price we're willing to accept, $67.98. We tell Realtick we want to sell for a profit 100% of our position when price gets to, let's say, 68.50. And we will sell 100% of our position for a loss if price drops below $67.65. These are just arbitrary numbers. But you can see here that Realtick has filled in all the variables, told you how much you stand to make, how much you stand to lose. So you can do a couple things here. You can save this as a strategy if you'd like and reapply it to Agilent over the course of the day. or you can just hit place order. And if we were looking at live market data right now, those orders would be live. Now I'm recording this over the weekend, so we're not going to see anything happen as a result of working with that trade. Since bracket orders tie up capital, and you might have 10 or 15 stocks on your watch list for the day, you can elect to use a conditional order instead. So by checking the conditional order box and then hitting buy, we can plot those exact same parameters into a conditional order, and this will only go live once the price criteria are met and everything is handled locally on our machine. So first thing we do is make sure that this top box says price or time trigger. Click on price trigger, and we want this stop order to go live. In this case, let's say price has to be just under. I'm going to change this to a value that's less than our long entry trigger price. Let's say $67.77. So if price is coming up from below and headed towards this 67.88 line, then we want to buy stop limit $67.98, and we just say place the order. Now you see here that a confirmation box has popped up. If you're new to Realtick, you're going to want to use confirmations. If you've been around this as long as I have, then another thing that you want to do is turn off all the warnings and confirms. So in my case, I've been doing this so long that I don't want any confirmations on anything at all. Again, how did I get there? I right-clicked down in the bottom of the montage, and I went to Order Entry Properties, and in this case, I selected Warnings and Confirmations, and I turned them off. Now I can enter additional parameters for things to happen around this order. For instance, I can set up another conditional order, and I can say sell this stock, and this time let's use an order trigger. So we're going to sell this stock, and we can filter it so that only this one order shows up on our list, okay? Because if you have 15 or 20 stocks that you're setting up, this list would get very large and you have to go looking for the symbol A in there. Filter the trigger list by the symbol that we just brought this up with, A for Agilent. Go in here, there's only one live order for it. Click on that. And now, if that order triggered, adjust the dependent volume, use the trade volume. So if we didn't get filled 1,000 shares, if we got filled 903 shares, change our exit order to 903, use the trade volume. And if the trigger failed, delete the dependent order. And now we're going to say if the price rises to $68.50, then we're going to sell stop limit, and we're going to use 68.45 as our worst slip that we're willing to accept. Now we click place order, and the exit order for a profit is in place. With the conditional box still checked, click sell again, and once again let's do an order trigger. Let's filter it just because that's a good habit to get into, and now select your live order. If Agilent's list price is $67.77, then buy it. That was the original order. And then you can see here when it completes, put in the sell order. And now we're going to enter our stop loss, adjust the dependent volume again. So if we get into the trade, use the trade volume. If it never triggered, delete the dependent order. And let's say we set up a stop market at $67.65, and we place that order. So now the order is bracketed up, and none of the funds in the account will be impounded unless the order actually triggers. The only drawback here is that is not an OCO order, so once you get filled either for a stop or a profit target, you'll have to click on cancel for that symbol to cancel the other leg of the order. The nice thing about setting those up as conditional orders is that once they're live, you can move the order around on the chart just by using your line grabber tool and grabbing the order line. Remember, we said display attributes show orders. those orders are going to show up as horizontal lines, and if you want to change the order, you're just going to grab whatever the horizontal line is and drag it and drop it to the new location. So on a conditional order that goes live, you can drag an individual line to change the order, whereas on an OCO order you cannot. Now if you wanted to use an OCO order to close yourself out of the trade, all you would have to do is go to the system order forms. Again, you get there by right-clicking in the bottom of the montage. Click on OCO, and now you can set up a sell order. Up market is going to be your profit. Down market was your stop loss. You can set your exit on the long side as a limit order, and then of course you have to set the downside as a stop limit, otherwise you'd get triggered out of the trade immediately. Let's go back to the order form that we were using. Again, that was bracket. And just let me tell you one last thing, that on the conditional orders, what I do is set those up the night before, and when they meet the qualifier, when they're coming up to a price from below for a long, or coming down to a price for a short, I've got my entry and my stop pre-programmed, and then the only adjustment that I make over the course of the morning is I will drag that stop line behind the stock according to the rules on the around the horn plan, and eventually move that stop loss right into my profit target. But that's just a matter of how you choose to set up these orders. Finally, I was asked about resizing things. And how do you resize these charts? Well, you do have to grab the bottom handle on the chart to move it around to make it larger or smaller, or the top handle. Or you can, of course, hover over your montage, and that will give you then the ability to go and make the chart full screen. Or the other thing that you can do, if that bothers you because it covers up your order entry montage, is to go to this setting here, Design, and in this case move down to Tab View. Just put any symbol into the tab view box to set it up, and then you're going to want to set this up pretty much the same layouts as you had for everything else. So again, you want to right click up in the top area here, click on Setup, uncheck Embedded Layout, and find a market maker that you liked. So I'm going to use Market Maker 5, and you see that gives us the same layout as we set up on this Market Maker montage over here. And again, all you do to get there, right click up in the top of the box, click on Setup, uncheck Embedded Layout, and then browse to find the Market Maker that you like. It's Market Maker 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Actually, I think Market Maker 4 is missing in there, but the rest of them are there. And then you can set up this area. You can put any tab that you want in here and remove any tab that you want. So if you have a chart, again, you could go and change this chart to match what we have up here. So if you like this white background, a very easy thing to do to make this available in all your charts is to right click on the chart, click on Favorites, Add to Favorites, and let's just call this Chart. Now, if you go to this new tab view that you created, right click, click on Favorites, and then click on Chart. And it'll be set up exactly the way that you wanted. You can add a market maker here. And again, this is not the layout that you want. First off, you've now got 2 of these market maker top screens. To get rid of this top portion of the window, just hit F6 while it's selected. Takes that away. Now you have your regular market maker here. And change this to a bracket. Same thing, we just right click, System Order Forms, and then select the order form that we want. The other thing we could have done is use this order form over here, right clicked, Favorites, Add to Favorites, just call that MM1, and then we see that in here we could have just right clicked, Favorites, MM1. It automatically formats it. The only thing it's going to do is toss that extra box on top. You have to hit F6 to get rid of it. And then if you'd like to have a ticker tape on the side of your screen, you can just hit F9. Your orders are now going to flow in these black bars on the side of the screen. You can even change where they're coming from by going to your user interface settings and say new lines on top and buy sell coloring. Now you've got a nice time of sales that'll roll by on the side of your chart. And if you decide to change the size of your chart, your market maker and any OCO or other kind of screen you decide to add here will always be right in the same chart window. So I use these tab view windows quite a bit. It's very handy when you have a bunch of stuff going on screen, and I think they're super useful, and I think you will too. So there you have it. That's some basic Realtick, how to create charts, how to create a market maker montage, and how to create a tab view window. I hope that helps everybody who's having trouble getting up and running with this. If you need further help, send me an email, adrian@traderinsight.com.